Hi, I'm Keith Jones. I'm an External Affairs Officer with FEMA, and today I'm in Beauregard Parish with a panel of experts to help walk people through the process of registration and getting assistance from FEMA and other agencies. And hopefully we'll answer a few of your questions along the way. Just to remind everybody, in the COVID environment, this taping was made to ensure proper social distancing and safety guidelines were followed. First, I'm here with Glenn Mears. He's the Deputy Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness for Beauregard Parish. Glenn, in broad terms, what is the role of the emergency manager in an event like this?
Our primary purpose in such an incident as this is to coordinate all resources and to make sure everybody has some type of resource to take care of them. We try to get the people out as quick as we can that want to leave, but our primary concern is the people of the parish. The first responders come take care of themselves. My primary worry is about the parish residents.
So what are the first things that people should do between landfall and applying for individual assistance, say in the first 72 hours?
Well, like we always tell them, the first 72 hours after the storm, we can't guarantee you we're going to get there because we're still cutting trees out of the roads, moving phone lines and everything like that. So we impress upon them that the first 72 hours after the storm hits, they should be self-sufficient. We will get them as quick as we can. And also at that time, we're ordering resupplies in from the state to come down so we can start setting up distribution centers and everything. But I've been doing this for over 30 years, and the people still need to know that 72 hours is 3 days, because there's sometimes it takes us that long to even get down the road.
So we talked about the first 72 hours. Let's talk about the next week and temporary housing between now and the time that long-term housing has been figured out.
Well, the first thing they got to do is not listen to rumors going around. They need to get to the media associated with Facebook, Twitter, the TV stations, radio stations, and learn where the responding government has put pods for them to get food, water, and that, or where they can go get donations of clothing and so forth like that. The biggest problem we have after that first 72 hours is people listening to rumors that we're not here to help, that they're not there or whatever. But we try real hard to coordinate everything in there so the people of the parish will have food, water, the basics. And then we impress upon them to start registering, because if FEMA doesn't know, if you don't register, FEMA don't know who you are. So they got to start registering. And there's several different ways of doing that. And plus also there's several different other organizations they can put the name on the list for, from the Salvation Army, the Mennonites, Red Cross and everything. Don't sit at home and wait for us to come to you. You need to get out and do something on your own, like register, look for places to get food, water, and take care of yourself.
Glenn, is there anything else you'd like to tell the people of Beauregard Parish, or any questions you have for our panel?
What FEMA can provide us at that time. And I say that because every storm is different situations. So the first question the people would ask is, what can FEMA do for us?
Thanks. And for questions on individual assistance, I'm going to go to James Marquez. He's the FEMA Individual Assistance Mass Care Supervisor for Hurricane Laura response. And before we get into individual assistance, James, I just want to ask, if somebody here in Beauregard Parish is registered for Rita or Katrina, do they need to register again?
Yes. Every time a disaster hits, it's separate than a previous disaster, so you're going to need to register for Hurricane Laura. Also, just keep in mind that the incident period for the disaster is August 22nd through August 27th. The registration date is August 28th through October 27th, and that's the time period that people have to register.
But they can also register at a drive-through disaster recovery center. Besides initial registration, what other things can they do at a disaster drive-through recovery center?
At a drive-through disaster recovery center, they could do limited technical review of their case. They could also, when the survivor drops off documents that they need to change any denials or just any information that FEMA is asking from the survivor, they're able to drop the documents off. They're complying with CDC guidance with COVID of reduced contact. They're going to be driving through in their car. The survivor, the FEMA representative is going to have a mask. They're going to be able to get the documents, or you're going to be able to scan it into their application and provide the documents back to the survivor. and then answer any limited technical assistance that they need.
Yeah, we've been working on several sites. The drive-through registration, and that's the hardest thing to get people to understand. With COVID-19 still here, and you have to have your distance or the plexiglass or the room fixed up, people don't understand that. They think this disaster is it. They want to go in and talk to a FEMA personnel, and it's hard to get them to understand the safety through all this. And so the drive-throughs is a good idea. Points where you go different parts of the parish, that's a good idea too. But it's still a little bit different when you got to wear a mask and talk to people and distances, because some of these old timers just ain't going, they don't see it.
So once the initial registration is done, the very next step is to file for a small business administration loan. And here to talk about that is Sushil Kumar. He's the SBA Public Information Officer. Sushil, now that we get the email to apply for this loan, what's that process and what's it used for?
It ends effectively the amount of disaster assistance you can get if you fail to fill the application in, first and foremost. Secondly, if the application is filled out, we will need the 9-digit registration number we get from FEMA, and then we underwrite the eligibility to meet the needs created by the disaster. So for renters and homeowners for personal property, it's $40,000. For homeowners, for damage against their mortgages, against their residences, up to $200,000. Private nonprofits and businesses of all sizes can borrow up to $2 million. Fixed interest rates, no fees, no points, no closing costs, no prepayment penalty. And if we're able to meet the needs created by the disaster, along with FEMA's short-term grants and long-term recovery, the needs of the applicant are considered met.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
In any given disaster, your first line of defense is your insurance policy. So in the overall scheme of things, duplication of benefits for either agency is a no-no. So one of the reasons why you may want to wait after getting approved by the SBA is to see how much of your insurance proceeds gets to you how soon. Timing is of the consequence. A lot of times, the homeowners or the applicants, in this case, or the survivors, can assign their insurance proceeds to repay the loan in its entirety. So using our proceeds for such as automobiles, so part of that $40,000 is for automobiles, your living room, your bedroom, your microwave, things along those lines. Or then damages to your property, debris removal could be part of it. Fixing a room, fixing a bedroom, fixing a roof, so on and so forth. So uses of proceeds are very specific to the loan that was made. So if it's a personal property, you got to use it for replacement of personal property. If it's for the mortgage, in this case, a residence, you have to specifically use it to bring the residence back to its pre-disaster condition. Those are the use of proceeds specificities. You don't have to do any of that until you get the insurance clearance, because we will only pay the part insurance doesn't cover. So the program is for the uninsured and the underinsured.
Okay, so it's not just a pot of money because it has to be used for very specific purposes.
For the purpose intended.
Now, the other question that's been coming up is, I don't own a small business. Why am I looking at a small business loan?
1953, the framework was that we were going to help out the needs of the many, including homeowners, renters, private nonprofits, and businesses of all sizes. This is the only arena where the Small Business Administration is involved in the assistance of homeowners and renters. They tend to be the largest proportion of our portfolio of loans in the aggregate, post-disaster also. So this is a nice niche for us to assist, because banks, credit unions, and financial institutions tend not to lend to homeowners and renters post-disaster, because they obviously are a collateral lender. We're a cash flow lender. So we're looking at the ability of the borrower to repay this loan over a maximum 30-year period, which is the amortization period. No fees, no points, no closing costs, and no prepayment penalty. So when the applicant's back on their feet, they can return the payments. Current interest rates for this particular disaster, for Hurricane Laura, 1.188% for homeowners and renters. For private nonprofits, 2.75%, and 3% for businesses of all sizes. Businesses actually can use those sums of money for the $2 million statutory maximum for a physical injury and for economic injury, which is insidious.
Which is what?
Insidious.
Well, explain what insidious means.
Insidious means it's absolutely disgusting what happens to the livelihood of people. The statistic that we bandy about in preparedness seminars is that for the first 5 days, if a business owner is closed, there's a 90% chance that most of those businesses won't survive the end of the year. So it is extremely crucial that businesses apply for the economic injury disaster loan to make those payments that they were making prior to the disaster without any hiccup. Now suddenly they find themselves in a cash crunch, especially in this current COVID environment. They've already been obliterated. So this Hurricane Laura disaster package is something they can double up on. In other words, you applied for COVID, you got your money, but this is a separate pot of money for those businesses to recover from the effects of Hurricane Laura.
So now that somebody has applied for an SBA loan, what other needs assistance can they get from FEMA, whether it falls under the loan or outside the loan?
So staying focused on what the SBA loan can do is it is specifically for personal property. And personal property identifications are automobiles, household goods, and contents.
So what about if I need a chainsaw or a generator or other things that are inside my house?
If they were not part of the original items that a person had pre-disaster, they cannot be replaced. So in other words, acquiring things to recover wouldn't be part. It's to repair, replace, rehabilitate those items that you owned prior to the disaster.
But there's a lot of words out there for getting other things. So if they have the SBA loan, they can't use it for that. Where do they go to for that?
We will refer them back to FEMA. We'll refer them to other state agencies because our program is specifically meant to repair, recover, and rehabilitate, not for acquisition of any shape or form. As a matter of fact, if an applicant wants to improve their home, so let's say the property owner had a 1,200 square foot home, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, they could not use those proceeds to upgrade to a 5.4, 1,500 square feet with those sums of money.
So when they initially register for FEMA, when they mention that they have their income and total occupied survivors in the home, that's going to either refer them to SBA or not. If they're not referred to SBA, they're going to be eligible for our Other Needs Assistance program, which covers personal property, moving and storage, transportation, other child care. We have medical, dental, funeral, and other miscellaneous items. So when I say other miscellaneous items, right now, due to this disaster and the severity of the power outage that happened, FEMA waived the medical waiver for purchasing a generator. So what this allows survivors to do is to go out and purchase a generator. The amount that FEMA is up to reimbursable is $449 for a generator and $179 for a chainsaw.
So, other needs assistance, but besides generators and chainsaws, what other items can the O&A apply for?
The other eligible items that they could get for other miscellaneous items is the dehumidifier, humidifier, weather radio, carbon monoxide detector, and smoke detector.
When a resident receives this letter on email from FEMA, it said they've been denied, we need to impress upon them to read the whole letter, to read the bottom of the letter. Don't give up. Make sure your paperwork is correct. And that the question we have is that the denial is the thing that a lot of people read that and just throw it out. I was just hoping maybe there'd be a different way of doing that.
There's a lot of reasons people could possibly get denial letters. What some of the main ones that they got is something I mentioned earlier. The insurance decision is one of the big ones. That doesn't mean that we're not helping survivors. We just can't duplicate benefits of the insurance. So they're going to need to submit their insurance settlement or declaration page if they don't have additional living expenses or loss of use, or if they've exhausted those amounts. Now, the other one that comes up is eligibility verification. So what that means is that their name and their social security number is not matching with our verification system with the NEMIS program. So when that happens, they could submit documentation, and the list of options to solve that issue is going to be in the documentation themselves. Some of the other common denials that people have is proof of ownership. So when they say their name and their address, there's a system that automatically tries to check to match their name and that address. Now, for whatever reason, if it doesn't match, you need to submit documentation to FEMA that proves that you own the home. Second, another thing that happens is proof of occupancy. Sometimes if they've moved to a new address, if they're a renter or owner and they doesn't match in the system, they have to submit a documentation that proves that they lived at that home. It could be their driver's license, state ID, a voter registration card, utility bills, anything that shows that they're living at that address, their name with that address. The other options that people have that they sometimes have issues with is where if they requested that they didn't need rental assistance, they'll get a letter saying that you're not eligible for rental assistance because you said that you're not willing to relocate. And that was one of the things that people could change by just calling the 1-800 number and then telling them that they are needing to relocate.
And that sounds a lot like a lot of reasons that they can go back and relook at the denial letter.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will get denied though.
Yeah.
And there's reasons for that. Could you just go through some of the reasons why if you fall into these categories, you will get denied, and that's okay because you just don't qualify.
Yeah, so a lot of times when people get decisions, it's not final and you could appeal the decision, but you need to have substantiating documents that proves why you're denying that one decision. It possibly could be that the home was listed, when you spoke with the remote inspector, you might have said that you might have had minor damage or no damage to the home. So those decisions that come through, you would have to now show a licensed contractor or handyman estimate to show that you did have damage. It could be that the amount that you received from FEMA was insufficient to repair their home. Then you would possibly need licensed contractor or handyman showing X amount of dollars, and then that would be submitted to FEMA, and then they do a remote inspection appeal. So with that appeal, they're going to look at what you sent and try to verify with the amount that was given initially.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
At the time of registration, if the survivor designates that they have an unmet need and they answer certain questions in their file, then they would potentially be eligible for the critical needs assistance.
But that has to be at the time they register.
Yes, that's the one key fact. They have to be eligible with their verification, and they have to identify that critical need at the time of registration.
Is there anything else you'd like to add or anything you'd like to say to the people of Beauregard Parish or southwestern Louisiana, either about your programs or just what you're here to do?
The SBA's low interest rate, fixed rate loan program is a crucial part of the recovery process. Do not worry about bringing documents with you to have it filled out. Call our number at 1-800-659-2955 because all of our services are virtual. As a result of it, the face-to-face interaction that folks have been anticipating in the past is absent. So we will assist you with the application intake process. Just give us a call from 8 to 8 or apply online. I'm hesitant to say apply online because there's no power, there's no internet. So we're hoping that the calls do come in the form of an actual cell phone call from wherever they happen to be, and then we can walk them through the whole process. If we're not able to assist with the lending capacity in any way, shape, or form, we then return the applicant back to FEMA for their other needs assistance, under which program they have all the gamuts of items that they could avail themselves to. But to qualify for ONA, based on income, they have to be turned on by the SBA first. So please make sure you apply. If you already know the outcome, apply anyway and get that piece of paper that says you've been turned down so that FEMA and the state agencies can help facilitate the recovery process that this particular disaster puts you through.
So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes. When FEMA comes in to help the survivors, we have a whole community approach. We work with the state, we work with the volunteer agencies to provide assistance to the survivors that FEMA can't do. They provide feeding, drinking, and other volunteer donations, other donations that could be helping for the survivor. One thing that we do want to mention is that we have a sequence of delivery. It's at the volunteer agencies or at the very forefront of when the disaster hits. They're immediately there and they're helping the survivors. At the very end of the disaster, they form long-term recovery groups and they work to identify any unmet needs that FEMA couldn't help. So the volunteer agencies help in the beginning and they help during and they help at the end.
I would say to them that first of all, before you check out or leave a shelter, make sure your house is intact and you have power. To make sure, because if no power around your house means there's no power at the stores. Make sure when you come back, you're prepared to be safe with proper clothing and so forth on it. And also to make sure that they have all their paperwork with them and that they're ready to register, but to be safe at the house, because most of our injuries come after the storm. People being careless with chainsaws. We've had a big impact with carbon monoxide problems with generators. So we stress upon the people that most of our injuries come after that 72 hours. So we impress that safety at all points.
Well, thank you. I'm Keith Jones, and our time is up. Thank you for taking the time to get this information. And I'd like to thank our panelists, Glenn Mears, James Marquez, and Sushil Kumar. At the end of this video, we will provide a screen with useful context to go and get additional information on what we've covered. And since he's the hometown expert, I'll give Glenn the last word. Glenn?
Just to be safe, be patient. If they can go to a place where they're like a relative or something and they got power, till they get power, that would be better. Sort resources from your general stores and like that will be upcoming as fast as we can get it. But the main thing I would tell them is be patient. We're trying and we're working hard, but things don't happen overnight.